stop beating yourself up. We all do this, right? I'm not enough. I'm not quite there. Oh, I screwed this up. In subtle ways or in big ways, but really start paying attention to any time that you're judging anything about yourself and allow yourself to just stop doing that.
He's the founder and CEO of Simplero, an all-in-one SaaS platform for empowers coaches and creator-led brands by combining courses, community, email, payments, and now AI. He's been a coder since he was a child, and he turned serial entrepreneur, and he brings a perspective of a blend of tech and human growth.
I had this notion in my mind that if I wasn't a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs level massive success, some crazy tech billionaire, world famous, life-changing, by 30.
Wow, you set a really high expectation for yourself.
Right? If that wasn't happening, I shouldn't exist. Most of us get stuck in 2.0 because part of us ourselves that is in the mental prison, because everything that ever stops us is words. Literally, period. It's the only thing that ever stops us is words.
Words are like magic bullets. Have Calvin Correli with us. He's the founder and CEO of Simplero, an all-in-one SaaS platform for that empowers coaches and creator-led brands by combining courses, community, email, payments, and now AI on one platform. He's been a coder since he was a child, and he turned serial entrepreneur, and he brings a perspective of a blend of tech and human growth. So Calvin, welcome to the Friday Habit.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course. And so we were chatting before we went live, that you are now in sunny California.
I am.
How long were you over in New York?
I was there for 12 years.
Okay, so a good stint. You got used to, walking everywhere, and I don't think California's as walkable as New York is.
The things we got here was like, all right, we're going to need a second car now. For most of my time in New York, we didn't have any car, and then got a car like 4 years ago, and now two car situation for sure.
Totally. But hey, you don't got those bitter cold gray winters, and
exactly.
You can just.
My wife was talking to a friend back in New York. It was like, it's freezing at night now. I'm like, yeah, I can do without it. It's funny actually because my wife grew up. We're both from Denmark, so we grew up in Denmark.
Oh.
And when we talked about moving here to California, she was a little concerned that she was going to miss winters. And now she's like, yeah, I think I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah. I will say, so in Colorado here, we get 4 seasons, which I really like, but it never gets too cold, and it never stays too gloomy. Like we have more days of sunshine than Florida. So for me, I feel like the only time I really care or think about it is during the holidays. I think there's just something magical about the weather changing and Christmas lights and snow potential, where it's like when you're in 75 degrees year round, it's like, Christmas just doesn't feel Christmassy.
Yeah. So totally remember years ago, we were in the U.S. Virgin Islands in the Caribbean during Christmas, and it just feels weird when it's like warm.
Exactly.
It's not right. Yeah, no, I totally feel you in that.
And especially New York. I mean, I've been there during the holidays, and it's so magical. All the lights, and they have the big Christmas tree, lit up, and there's something magical about it.
And the thing with Denver too is that you've got the snow, so you can go ski and you can do cool activities. And New York too is like you don't get a ton of snow typically, but you have the sun. There's a lot more sun. Denmark, where I'm from. Oh my God.
Is it just dark and gloomy and cold?
Like 9 months out of the year. And not just cold, but wet.
Oh, yeah.
Like last year, we were there for 2 weeks during December. We saw the sun for a total of 5 hours.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. That's kind of depressing.
It's very depressing.
It weighs on you after a while.
Yeah. And I recently read this book by Jacob Lieberman on, it's called The Luminous Life. He's someone, I just had a session with him yesterday, actually. It's cool, sweet older gentleman. He found out that that you can actually heal your eyesight because it's really an emotional thing underneath it. But that's a whole other story. But so his latest book was Luminous Life, where his point is like everything is light. Who we are is light. Everything runs on light. It's not just plants that need sunlight to function. Humans do too. And so when there's no sunlight, it makes you freaking depressed. It's not good for you in any way. And I just love that I get most of my days are spent working outdoors on the laptop. And it's
just getting that vitamin D, vitamin K, you know,
right?
looking at the sun at sunrise and sunset.
Exactly. New York is always too windy or too hot or too cold, or it's really windy in New York. People don't realize that, but it gets super windy there.
Yeah. So you grew up in Denmark. Did you come from a family of entrepreneurs, or what's the culture like down there? I mean, we have some friends who are from Sweden, and we've been to Stockholm and Vallentuna and like some other places down there, and it's beautiful. But yeah, it was dark constantly.
Yes, especially
we went in the
winter.
spring.
Actually, yes. I was from my father. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. So and on my mom's side, there's a lot of entrepreneurs. My mom's father was a horse trader back when horses were the primary means of transportation and workforce, and stuff. So that was a big deal. And so he was like working for himself, and before that, his father as well, et cetera. So there's a lineage there on my mom's side. My mom started a software company in 1980 as a female CEO of a software company that did very well.
Nice.
My dad, he never started anything from scratch, but my mom's dad died when I was 1 year old, and my parents inherited a farm that they then sold, and then they put an ad in the paper saying we'd like to buy a business. And so that was my dad's step out of corporate into owning his own business, and he grew it, and he did phenomenally well over many, many years. So
so that's what got you into coding. Your mom being kind of a tech pioneer, especially back then, that was very unique for a woman to be in that space.
Exactly. Yeah, very much. And it was actually both of them. So my father also, he was the one that taught me how to program. So both of them in the late 60s, right when computers first started happening in Denmark, they both got into programming. They were both, dad was studying mechanical engineering, my mom studied chemical engineering. And they both kind of realized, well, like you can mix paint, or you could like go into this new field of computers, which is way more exciting. And so they met the same guy who was an IT pioneer in Denmark, who later went on to become a member of the European Parliament and into space and all kinds of other things. Wow. So through him, they both got into coding and programming. And my dad, like I said, was the one that would teach me since I was like 5 years old, and I loved it. That was so much.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So as a kid, I mean, did you think about like coming to America, like Rambo, Sylvester Stallone, like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
It did something for me, not in that way, right? But because computers is synonymous with America, right? It just is. And so for me, learning to code, back then it was like learning assembly for the IBM's or the the Intel processors, the 8086 and 8088, which was like the OG in IBM PC processors, and all of the other things that you had to learn. Everything was in book form, and it was American books. And there was one bookstore in Copenhagen that would have like a couple shelves of American computer books, but that was it. And so I would always beg my father when he came to the U.S., like go to a bookstore and buy some tech books for me and bring them back home. So from an early age, I started reading English. Before I learned in school, I picked it up from like if and while and until and then and else and Boolean and integer, all these things that you learn in the programming languages. And then from the books, because I just wanted to learn this stuff so much that I kind of picked that up. And that's what oriented me towards America. And so I got this, America's cultural export is massive, right? Whether it's through movies or music, or in my case, it was computers and technology.
Right.
Later on, obviously, internet and things like that. But like that cultural export is massive, and it really impacted me. So yeah, I was always drawn to America.
That's cool. And so then what year did you come over here?
I actually came over in 1999 the first time.
Okay. Okay,
And
nice.
yeah, and I was in the middle of studying computer science in Denmark.
It's like the dot-com era, like when that
Exactly.
was really booming. Yeah.
Yeah, right before it popped. So
Yeah.
I can't never fail into that. But yeah, my plan was to go to the US and study, but then I realized like, why would I pay like 30 grand in tuition or something when I could get a job making 100 grand? So I was like, let me do that. And I learned way more doing that than I would have learned at a university. And
Yeah.
that was awesome. And I never went back to finish my degree.
Well, and that's what I love too about, I mean, I think a lot of things, but especially I think like in the coding and tech world, right? There's a lot of brilliant young kids who are just, they just obsess about it and they get so good where it's like, okay, you have a skill set that is better than someone who would go to school for 4 years and be taught all these like right way to do things when you just were scrappy and learned how to solve problems yourself. I think it's way more valuable, especially as an employee or whatever that is, especially in that arena. And then you look at all the guys like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs who like bounced from college once they realized like, you know what, you really don't need this degree to get into this field.
Absolutely, yeah. And the first 2 weeks on my job, the first job I got, I learned more than I had learned in like 5 years in university of practical, useful stuff.
Right.
We were actually, so while I was waiting for my visa to work in the US, the company I worked for had Siemens in Munich, Germany as a client, but the guy that they had working on that was this guy, Branimir from Croatia, and he was waiting for his visa to work in Germany. So I ended up working in Zagreb, Croatia, for the first few weeks on the job, and I learned more from Branimir in those 2-3 weeks than I'd learned, because we had to get SSH tunnel through their firewall because their internet didn't allow access to outside things, and we had like all these like nerdy things that I didn't know anything about. You don't learn that stuff in college, so I was like, it was amazing. I learned so much from that.
That's
job.
so cool. So you started working your way up through different companies and doing stuff. And at what point, how long have you been doing coaching, and how long have you had Simplero and stuff like that?
Yeah, this was really the only job that I had. So that, aside from as a kid, I worked for both my mom's software company and my dad's production company. My dad made like physical shop fitting for gas stations all over the world, and I wrote like an what's called an ERP, like an enterprise resource planning software that would handle their production stuff. So I wrote that while I was in high school as like a summer project and things like that.
Like, hey, Dad, I think I can fix this for you.
Right. Yeah. And my dad was very encouraging. He's like, I think you can do this. You can figure this out. And same thing when I wanted to just jump in. So after this job in the US that I had for like 2 years, then I ended up moving back to Denmark. And that's when I started out on my own. My dad was very supportive of that as well. He was like, yeah, they just learn it by doing. Just throw yourself into it. You'll figure it out. And then a few years later, I was kind of struggling. He was like, yeah, maybe that wasn't such great advice. Maybe you should. But it worked out. Because at that point, my plan was like, I was going to do what you talked about. I was like, well, I want to work for a company where I learn more about marketing, and then I wanted to work in another position where I learn more about like management and team and probably. He was like, just go for it. You'll figure it out. So, and I did eventually.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so then at what point did you decide, like, you talk about coaching 3.0, this, can you kind of explain that a little bit? You have coaching 1.0, 2.0, and then now 3.0. What does that, what does that mean?
That's a great question. So in terms of when my dad was like, maybe that wasn't such a great idea, right? That there was that moment where I realized that the problem was me. And it's not, the problem wasn't that I didn't know marketing. Like that stuff is learnable. Everything's learnable. Everything's figure outable. But it was really about something in me, like thought patterns, beliefs, like that kind of stuff that was holding me back. And so that was what got me started on this journey of coaching and personal development.
Where do you think those thought patterns come from? Because, I mean, do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. And to me, I mean, just, obviously I don't know the intricate details of how you grew up, but it sounded like you have like two parents that loved each other, that worked hard for the family, that that kind of had that self-starter spirit and whatnot. So where do you think those limiting beliefs and all that stuff started being seeded into you at a young age?
All kinds of ways. So I think things happen even like at the point of conception, during pregnancy, during birth, immediately after birth, later on. Like it can happen at any point in time. And I think an important thing to realize is that none of it's wrong. My belief is that we curate the experiences before we get here. There's a great book called The Holographic Universe, like 30 years old or something, where he talks about how through hypnosis, you can regress people not just to a past life, but to the period in between lives. And people realize, no, I actually curated all these experiences. And I believe that we do so that we come up against what I call our mind bugs, which are, it's deeper than beliefs and limiting beliefs. It's like, it's identity level. It's who we see ourselves as being, who we are and how we relate to the world. And it's like water to a fish. Like we don't see it because it's just how it is. But we curate the experiences so that we will install these mind bugs so that we can realize that they're lies and be free to be who we really are. And in the process of installing these mind bugs and then realizing the truth, we learn something that we can then help other people with.
What I hear you saying is a little, I would say, new agey, or maybe a little, I see some like Hinduism and some other types of, afterlives kind of thing. But I try to relate that to my Christian worldview in some ways. And I think about our identity as a Christian, right? As a Christian, when you become a Christian, you have now a new identity where your father is the creator of the universe, and now you are a son or a child of the creator of the universe. And so it's like, oh, wow, like if I only knew who my identity was, like if I only knew like who my father was, I would walk around this world with way more authority and way more like confidence and power, right? It's like you think about the son of the president of the United States walks around the White House with authority because he's like, do you know who my dad is? And no one gives him crap because he has that confidence, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh yeah. And so I kind of think of it like in that way.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's beautiful. Yeah. So for me specifically, the way, like, just to give examples of these things is I'm the fourth. My father has a daughter from his first marriage. Then there was a son who was stillborn. My mom carried to the 8th month, and he wasn't developing properly and ended up not making it, but was still born vaginally. Then there's my older brother, and then there's me. So I'm number 4 in the sequence. And one of the things that I've discovered through some of the work that I've done, specifically with something called family constellations, if you've heard of that, was an energetic entanglement between me and the brother that didn't make it. And so like there's an energy that gets passed down through generations. And for me, it registered as a sense of guilt, like he didn't get to live, so I shouldn't live. And for me, it was a big thing to recognize, oh, that's not mine. Like I can give that back to him and be like, hey, I'm sorry you didn't get to live, but that's not going to stop me from living, and like recognize that of course you would want me to live as well. So that's an example of something that happens at like conception, gestation, whatever, like early on, right? Then when I was born not breathing. So I was all blue. I was kind of like near death something. They got me to breathe, and then they put me in an incubator for 48 hours. So there's something with like a near-death experience, maybe like we've heard of those, like the tunnel and the light and all that stuff. I don't have any memory of that, but maybe I experienced something like that would kind of pierce a veil to the other side a little bit. But then definitely being in an incubator is a great way to install a bunch of mind bugs. Like, I'm all alone. Like, I'm not safe. I'm powerless to do anything. I'm not wanted. I don't belong. Like all kinds of things that your mind just starts believing, again, not as beliefs, but like as an identity. That's who I am. I'm someone who doesn't belong. I'm someone who's not safe. I'm not someone who's discarded, not wanted. And why did they discard me? Well, there must be something wrong with me, or I'm bad in some way. Like all of these core foundational beliefs. Maybe I did something wrong and that's why they did it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where these mind bugs get installed. And of course, then like as you grow up and your dad says something one day, or your mom says something, or someone in school does something, or a teacher or brother, whatever, like more shit gets lodged in there, right? And this is how it is. And again, the point is that none of it's bad. It's like, oh my God, I had such a terrible childhood, poor me, blah, blah, blah. No, that's just another mind bug. That's just like, no, none of it's wrong.
Well, and the way that I think about it too is because I had like a pretty wild and crazy childhood. You know, I was kidnapped by my mom when I was 4 years old. We were on the run for 6 years. It was wild, abusive, and crazy. And throughout my life, I've been able to share my story to kind of encourage other people to say, you know, it's not really about where you come from. It's about, you know, your mindset about where you're going, and that your past doesn't define your future, you know? And so I think too, it's like one of those things where people say, oh, well, would you take that back? Or do you wish that never happened to you? And then part of me feels like, well, I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't gone through all those difficult things that kind of molded me and shaped me and adjusted my worldview and turned me into who I am, you know, at this point. So then it's kind of like that weird catch-22 where it's like, well, yeah, I wouldn't want me as a little kid to be abused and things like that. But in the same way, I have become, you know, I've overcome those things, and now I'm, you know, able to encourage people and love people and, do the things that I do because of the hardships that I overcame. So it's a weird like dichotomy.
Right. And I think as humans, we have this tendency to want to be selective about things. Well, I like this, but not that. Like this without like, and life doesn't work that way. Like nothing happens unless everything happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly what you're saying. You wouldn't be who you are unless all these other things had happened. We wouldn't be sitting here unless like a million other things had happened before. So that whole like selectiveness is just a fallacy.
Yeah. When did you start like thinking about this stuff, or how did you get to a point to even have this, you know, were things just really bad and you're in the dumps and you're failing and you're like, I need a change? Did you hit rock bottom?
Yeah. Right. Like I think we all do. That's usually how the growth starts. For me, it was around turning 30. I had this notion in my mind that if I wasn't a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs level massive success, some crazy tech billionaire, world famous, life changing by 30.
Wow, you set a really high expectation for yourself.
I know, right? If that wasn't happening, I shouldn't exist. I was unworthy to breathe the air, unworthy to take up space that was belonging to other people. Never mind that they didn't do that. Right. Like, none of this is logical. Like none of this is conscious. But that was just, I don't know how that got in there. When I shared it with my dad, he's like that wasn't me. I don't know where this came from. But I think I came in with, again, like we come in with these, like a deep sense of like, I'm not enough. Right? Which is like human disease. Everybody has that, a version of that. I'm not enough in who I am. I need to be more, do more, prove myself, like, you know, accomplish more, whatever. Like it's all BS, but we have that. For me, that was my version of that. And I think maybe like, whatever, I remember as a kid, my dad would always be like, talk about people who did great at business and like, oh my God, this person, and that's amazing. And look at this house they built and look at this, blah, blah, blah. And like, meanwhile, I felt like he didn't like me. He didn't see me. He wasn't interested in me. And so it was like, so I think logically as a little kid, you make the conclusion, oh, I'm not enough, but these people are. If only I was like them. And then I'm going to just like go all in on that and go overboard. Right. And none of it, of course, is intentional. But I had a situation with my dad maybe like 8 years ago or something where we sat down and we got drunk in red wine and port wine and whatever at his house, just him and I. It was super fun. And then he looked at me and he said, look, son, I don't think I ever really got who you were. And I wasn't sure that I liked you. But now I feel like I'm really getting you, and I really like you. I really love you. And
I bet that's really healing for your soul.
It was a beautiful, sweet, sweet moment, because I think one core way we can fuck up our children, again, unconsciously, I'm not judging anyone for, like my dad or anyone for this, but I think one of the good ways to fuck our kids up is to tell them we love them, but not actually love them. And I'm not saying my dad didn't love me, but I'm saying he was conflicted inside because I think I triggered something in him that was confronting for him. And so his love wasn't as clear. And so, but it was presented to me as love. And so that kind of messes with our internal barometer. Rollo May wrote a book about this, and he did studies on this where, like, if you tell your child, I hate you're trash, I like, get out of my life, like, they will do better than if you're telling them that you love them, but you're actually resenting them at the same time, because you're messing with their sins, right? Oh, it's very healing to be like, oh, it wasn't my sins here that was off. That was what happened. And that's totally fine. It's totally fine. Like, we're all doing our best, right? Like,
yeah.
And again, everything happens the exact right way. It couldn't have happened any different.
So where does Simplero come in?
Simplero came in because I started the coaching, trained to be a coach. And then I realized that I love that. And I realized that every kind of personal development journey ends in a spiritual process. So I got into that, the spiritual side of things more. I was like, this is the key to entrepreneurship. Like, this is what I need to work with people on. This is what I need to teach. And so I started studying online courses and marketing and coaching, all that stuff. And then I got into that. And then I needed software to run that business.
And you're like, I'm a coder, so
hey, I know how to do this, right? So that's how Simplero came in. And then, like, Simplero, of course, became his own business. That was the plan from the start. I could see that there was an opportunity here. So let me build that for not just me, but for others as well. And I'm still doing both. I'm still doing my own coaching. And then as I figure things out, like, I'll constantly I use my own software, of course, to run everything in my business, always tweaking it and making it better that way. And I love that. Like, I love both sides. I love going straight from, like, a coaching call where we're doing deep identity rewiring and people are crying and they're laughing and they're, like, really in their feels and all the things. And then I go straight into, like, looking at code with my engineers or some design with it. Like, I love just jumping all over the place. Every level, clouds, dirt, whatever. I don't care. I love the width and the breadth of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. When you were starting the business, were you working a day job at some point, trying to be like, I want to become a coach or I want to build this software? And then was there like a leap at some point?
Yeah, for sure. There was a day job, which was coding for money. So I started a consulting firm first and grew that to like 13 people and, some big name clients. We worked for MIT in Cambridge. We worked for Heidelberg University in Germany, Greenpeace International, whatnot. And then, so then I scaled that down. So it was just me doing some freelance work I had just one remaining client at that point while I built the other thing up. But what I found for me was that kind of became a cushion. And so at one point I was just, okay, stake in the sand now, like stake in the ground, line in the sand. Here, no more selling my time for money. I'm going to figure out how to make this product thing work. And it got kind of scary and hairy. And I ended up borrowing some money from my mom and which then got me in trouble with my dad, blah, 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 all this stuff. But then, I made it, right? For me, there's something about like putting myself in the situation where I have to make it work that gets me moving. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but that tends to work for me.
Yeah. If you could avoid that, that would be great.
Right.
I do some of my best work when I'm stressed and I'm like under the wire,
Right. Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to double click on, you asked about like the coaching 3.0. So I actually have two frameworks. So there is the personal development 3.0, which is the growth work that we each do. And the way I delineate it is the 1.0 is like the good old fashioned, like motivational, rah, you can do it. Yeah. Like pumping up and jumping up and down and all that stuff, which is awesome. Like it gets you moving, it gets that energy, but it tends to not last, right? So whether it lasts for 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days or something, it's kind of in that range, maybe a few weeks. And then we kind of have to go back and hype again. The 2.0, the next level is where we start to do some healing work, some like look at our beliefs and like maybe like crystals and chakras, like all the things that people do in the healing kind of personal development space, coaching, whatever. That's 2.0. That's awesome. There's progress, but it tends to be a little bit slow. It's where we end up like working. Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working on it. And maybe I've worked on it for a long time. And I've definitely been there a lot. And then 3.0
is waking up from the matrix.
Right. 3.0 is where we realize that it's the identity work that really unlocks it. And let me explain what I mean there and give an example. Usually in 2.0, it's still coming from, oh, there's something wrong with me, right? Like that like, oh, I have this issue. I have this trauma because my mom did this, my dad did this. I need to work on this issue. But it's still coming from a perspective that there's something wrong with me that needs fixing. And so the more we fix, the more we work on fixing things, the more we are reinforcing that something's wrong with us. And so we might see progress, but it usually doesn't progress that fast, that much. And so when we realize that that whole identity as someone that there's something wrong with me is the lie, then we're like, oh, great, I don't need to fix anything. I just need to catch myself when I think there's something wrong with me. I'm like, oh, that's a lie. Let's get back to the truth. And the ultimate upgrade that I'm for, I talk about being a kernel hacker for the human operating system. The operating system upgrade that I stand for when it comes to humans is to upgrade from that limited self, the small self that thinks that it's not safe, it doesn't belong, like it's a separate being in a separate physical body and it has to fight for its own survival, and maybe you don't belong, and maybe you did something wrong or whatever. Like that person, which is really the egoic self, recognizing that that's the lie and that the truth of who you are is like pure spirit, pure soul, pure awareness, like a boundless being that was never born, will never die, can't really be harmed. Problems don't exist in that space because it just is what it is. There's no problem. And that's the transition. And when you do that, it's like all the stuff falls away, right? Most of us get stuck in 2.0 because it's that part of ourselves that is in the mental prison that's trying to break out of the prison. Instead of realizing that the prison is one that I made, and I made it with my own mind, we're using words, and I can unmake it. Does this make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's fascinating for sure. Mm-hmm. So,
because everything that ever stops us is words, literally, period. It's the only thing that ever stops us is words.
Words are like magic bullets.
They are. They're insane. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I'm curious to understand a little bit about, your, like, how did you, did you go on some sort of like journey? Did you go on some sort of walkabout or some, like, have you just been feverishly learning and studying and how have you come to this enlightenment that you've reached?
Pretty much, yeah. I've done tons of different things over many, many years, and a lot of it has been, like most of it, all of it, has been good, great, helpful in different ways. And it took me, I think I started the journey in earnest in 2003. So that's 22 years ago. And like coaching and spiritual teachers and like Tony Robbins and Byron Katie is what I was going to say. And like all these different teachers, all these different methodologies, all kinds of healing processes, aura stuff, like all the things for many, many years. And it was like a year or two ago that things really started to click for me in this way, where I started to see it differently. It was really a British guy named Peter Crone that kind of got me to connect all the dots. He's done a great work of like connecting everything from like Eastern philosophy to like the Western and like the Byron Katie type. I don't know if you're familiar with Byron Katie, but she's amazing. But like all of that were kind of helped like really put it all together, where I was like, oh, that's the key right there, is recognizing it's not beliefs, it's not things that you're thinking in your mind, it's who you see yourself as being. That's the level that we need to address. That's the thing that unlocks things.
Is Denmark like a very atheistic country?
I would have to say yes, regrettably.
Yeah, I mean, because I know like a lot of those Scandinavian countries, they were very Christian at some point, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, whatever. But then at some point, religion kind of started to die, and then it was kind of more of like agnostic, atheistic type country. So growing up, were you not really exposed to spirituality or it was kind of not talked about? I mean, it's not like you went to mass or Catholic church when you were a kid.
No Catholic church, no. We did go to church occasionally, but it was pretty rare. I was exposed to spirituality as a kid, though, like through my mom. She's always had a very spiritual outlook on life. My dad, not so much. And I was very, I would say, quote unquote, spiritual as a kid, very kind of attuned. But it is like Denmark as such is I would say the religion of Denmark is climate change and sorting your trash. That's the
religion. Isn't Greta Thunberg from Denmark?
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
But like everybody's obsessed with climate and sorting their trash. Like literally, when you're in Denmark, you sort your trash into like 8 different buckets. It's insane.
That's the religion.
And they're like little so everybody has these it's insane. It's madness. And you could do it with a robot if you really wanted to today. But no, it's not about that. It's like original sin. Right? The original sin of having been born. Oh my God, you existing, you living is like you're exhaling CO2. You're hurting the planet. So you got to repent, and like that's your
recycle your trash. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, so you kind of had some exposure to spirituality and different things like that, but then kind of as you grew up, you started to search for exactly, what that connection was for you.
For sure, yeah.
And I think, what are your thoughts on like?
What I was gonna say is like, what has always driven me is like, I wanted certain results in my life. I wanted to get away from certain things in my life, and I've always been resenting this like very regimented like 4 tips of strategies or do this and da da da. Like I've like, no, I want to figure out how to become the person that lives that life effortlessly. That has always been my guiding like my North Star.
And so, here you are.
That's right. That's right. I mean,
you've reached nirvana.
Yeah.
And so if people wanted to connect with you or kind of hear more about, what you're about and what you're into, what's the best place to connect with you?
My Instagram, best place.
Okay.
Just my name, full name, Calvin Correli on Instagram, and then hit me up in the DMs and let me know you saw me on the Friday Habit, and let me know if something resonated. Love hearing from people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you could leave everyone with one bit of advice, starting off on Monday, like, hey, focus on this one thing. What would be that one thing that you'd encourage people to start focusing on?
Stop beating yourself up.
Okay.
Start noticing. We all do this, right? I'm not enough. I'm not quite there. Oh, I screwed this up. In subtle ways or in big ways, but really start paying attention to any time that you're judging anything about yourself, and allow yourself to just stop doing that.
In the Bible, it says, "As a man thinketh, so is he."
For real. Yeah. Right.
Well, hey, Calvin, thanks so much for hanging out with me and sharing your journey and your story and encouraging our audience. I wish you all the best. And hey, thank you for hanging out with us on the Friday Habit. If you go to thefridayhabit.com, you can find show notes for this episode. You can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit system. It's going to show you how to set aside one full day each week to dedicate working on your business instead of always in your business. You can hit us up at hello@thefridayhabit.com. And until next time, live every day like it's Friday.